time of day, folks.
Wait, does Aaron no longer greet the live stream? I was so used to that.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our fantastic producer and engineer, Mr. Aaron Zommers. On the board, it is 6 past the hour of 12 noon on this Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite, and it is... Whoa, the camel was in a cavern, apparently. That's the only person left in Statutory Hall in the U.S. Capitol, a camel. That's why we have the reverberation. Great to have you along with us. Big show today coming up in hour 2. A timely, what's worse indeed, dealing with slippery roads or slippery people. We'll talk about that in hour number 2, and as well as preview the Wisconsin Badger men's basketball game. They're back in action tonight against the Minnesota Golden Gophers up in the barn in Minneapolis, and a big game for the Badgers as they continue to try to get that quest, a first-round game in Milwaukee that was helped last night as Iowa State lost to BYU in double overtime down at Iowa last night. That helps the Badgers. We'll explain a little bit more later. Tracy Olson from the Lincoln Project is going to grace us with his presence when he is off a call, but always on time, like a Rolex clock. You can count on him, the host of Up North News Radio every morning from 6 until 8, Patrick J. Kreitlow. Patrick, how are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to take an important call over here. La-di-da.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure he's saving another country from,
our own, as it turns out.
Yeah, it just might be. Who knew that all that overseas experience in helping establish and preserve democracies would someday come in handy here? But here we are.
Is it snowing up? It's downtown Madison. We have a little, I'll call it slightly more than a skiff of snow. Certainly enough to track a cat.
No, it has moved on from here in beautiful Chippewaffles.
There you go.
Look at those wet streets there in Madison on the little live feed
screen
right now.
Yeah.
And no, it has moved out of us. And I guess, talking to my wife who's working up in Rice Lake, she estimated about 10 inches of snow there.
Whoa.
With only about 2 inches here in Chippewa Falls. Apparently, somebody was showing off, how sometimes with storms there's what's called a dry slot, or dry space on the radar. Apparently, we were the donut hole for that. So I'm very thankful not to have to go out and push this stuff because, mostly it's blowing away as we speak. And it's super windy out there. And, the temperatures the next few days will take care of the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a snowy day in some parts of Wisconsin. I know some school districts have called off classes as a precautionary. I think part of the part of the challenge for these school districts is in some places, most places, this started as a rain event or less than all snow, and then that freezes, and you get snow, and then it turns into ice. So, better just to hold off a little bit and have people work from home or teach from home. I know many school districts now doing that. Be careful out there if you're on the roadways. You can check out 511wi.gov if you want to see the road conditions around where you are at. Pat, I think we have to at least spend a couple of minutes on this. The big speech last night by the Trumpster was not technically a State of the State event. It was just a presidential address. It went on for around 2 hours with applause last night. I managed to stay up for the entire thing. I was very proud of myself after having a couple of beverages to help get through it. Were you tucked away in bed last night by the time I got over?
Long gone by that time. caught just the first little bit of it, just to make sure that nothing much happened in the early going, other than the one congressman, raising a ruckus and being escorted out. But other than that, it was a campaign speech. And the thing that I said this morning is that I feel like it's just like this new tradition that the winning team gets to deliver their campaign address one more time, and the losing team has to sit there and listen to it. And that's it. It was a campaign speech. It's done. We move on. There's other things in the real world. But what concerned me about this speech, young Mr. Allbaugh, is your reaction. Is your reaction to
my reaction?
Your reaction, because again, it may have been, perhaps placated by the aforementioned beverages that you were enjoying. But what I'm not hearing from you is what I heard after the State of the State, which I am going to back away from the microphone just a little bit here to capture the way that Mr. Allbaugh reacted to the State of the State address. That was just a terrible speech. Does Tony Evers need me? I will go work for the governor. How can you call that a speech? It was something like that, I believe, and
pretty much verbatim.
And I'm not hearing anything like that from Donald Trump. So I guess I know what you prefer in public speaking.
I wanted to give you the first kick at the cat.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I thought that as far as like factual, we have a couple of cuts here to talk about that. As far as factuality, and truth,
that's
certainly.
funny. That's adorable that you're even talking about that. Okay, sure. Go
What?
ahead.
What?
It just goes without saying. It's just one lie after another. But sure, let's go ahead and talk about what. Wouldn't it take less time to cover what was actually fact based?
The reason I think we should talk about this is because, as Zommers has pointed out before, so many of these speeches now it's all about getting cut up and put on TikTok and socials and all these things, and people only hear snippets, and then this goes on to social media, and then that becomes people's truth, and that's how people develop their, well, that's what it is. And so I think it's good to point out some of these things and bring truth to it. So hopefully people will be like, well, okay, I guess that part at least wasn't true. But no, I thought obviously as far as facts, as far as truth, it was severely lacking. If there was any truth at all, not much of it. But I will say this, just purely from the goal of what I said, getting things on TikTok, social media, getting a message out there, I would say the Trump speech was much better than the Evers speech that way.
Yeah, I don't think Governor Evers had social media in mind when he was delivering his speech. Well, it's a speech that deals with policy and what does he want to get done, and he did that, and he did it without necessarily thinking of TikTok. Yes, I will grant you that.
I'm not here to beat up on Tony Evers. I'm just saying I don't think.
I know. I'm here to bait you into beating up on Tony Evers.
I know,
because I know I can do that with you sometimes.
You like that when I get riled up,
just a little.
No, I mean, I thought it was effective having the people in the gallery and telling stories about people. Again, maybe some of those stories were not quite true, but the optics.
Can I just say about going up to the gallery for people? I was there, not there physically, but I was alive and cognizant the first time that Ronald Reagan did something like this, and people going, ooh, that was different. Rather than just delivering a speech, he actually called out somebody that he had in the gallery as a guest. Well, that's a very novel thing for this actor turned president to do. Little did we know that all these decades later, if you were to ever give a speech and not do that, people would consider you an absolute failure. So now it's like, how many do you do? Do you do 2? Do you do 5? Do you do 7? How many did Trump do? He did a lot in there, always looking for the gratuitous applause lines and, hoping to bait the other side of the chamber into going, how do you not stand up for a kid? How do you not stand up for a kid in the gallery? Well, the same way the Republicans in Madison didn't stand up for Mrs. Evers. It's just all
sure. No, I agree with that part. That I mean, now thanks to. You hate this when I say this, but now thanks to both sides, now decorum is dead, and it doesn't matter. And I think it was a mistake last night for the guy from Texas to stand up and throw the fit. And I support Johnson for throwing him out because he gave him a warning, and I mean, when my former boss Dale Schultz was Senate Majority Leader, you were a former state senator. I mean, he sat down with Judy Robson, the Democratic leader, before these types of things and said, "Here's how it's going to run." He brought Rob Marchant, the Senate Chief Clerk, in and said,
Yep.
"Rob, is this the rule of the body? Yes, it is. We're going to enforce that." And I'm not a Mike Johnson fan, but if you were given a warning and you don't follow the rules of the chamber, that's it. And I think it was a mistake last night for that guy to do that. I think it was a mistake for Democrats to bring in the signs, but I also think it was a terrible mistake for what Republicans and Robin Vos did, not standing up for the First Lady of Wisconsin, and for not standing up and supporting a family who lost a kid to cancer or whatever. What is in Wisconsin? So
Right.
I think, to your point, it's just that's dead now.
And I would say that for the congressman who stood up and was escorted out, he knew what he was doing. That was going to be his form of protest, and he has done, shall we say, stunts like that in the past, to which other Democrats go, see, now you're just making Mike Johnson look tough. Trust me, this is the Will Rogers side of the Democratic Party, where people go, I do not belong to an organized party. I'm a Democrat, which means there's always going to be somebody that's going to want to go, maverick. And that's exactly what this guy did. And, if nothing else, it helped Mike Johnson look strong as speaker. But it also, frankly, showed when you saw that shot looking down the aisle of the sergeant of arms, the couple of guys. I mean, they looked like thugs, just these goons going down the aisle, getting set to pummel this older gentleman. So the optics weren't fantastic either for a side that gets accused of looking a little authoritarian, shall we say. So all around, everything that we've talked about for the past 11 minutes has been performative. If we get to the substance of it all, again, we've got a campaign speech and a whole lot of stuff happening in the real world that, thank God, Trygve Olsen is out there saving us from.
Who joins us via the StreamYard now from Washington.
Sorry,
Capitol.
I'm late, boys. I was on a call about all of this
I know you
debacle.
weren't.
We know.
I appreciate it.
I would just
hang on. Time out.
Oh.
We have time to play the cut on the mice yet, or we're out of that. No, not yet. Not really. Okay, go ahead, Trygve.
I would just say, I have my 7 rules of dealing with autocrats to the point that you guys were talking about. Rule number 4, don't hand the other side battering rams with which to beat you. The unfortunate thing about him doing what he did is he gave little Johnson an opportunity to have a battering ram with which to beat them.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is true.
That
was
is
an
the
unfortunate
problem.
part.
I said to my kids who were watching the speech with me, I'm like, that's not going to go over how he thinks it's going to go over.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, that's 100%. Other than the base who wanted to see that, and I get it. I mean, as much as I can, not being a Democrat, I try to have empathy and compassion for very progressive left Democrats who are very angry and don't feel they have a voice and want their party to speak up and do something. And I think for those folks, that's fine. I'm not sure that's the market you wanted to hit last night if you're the Democratic Party.
No,
We'll
but
come
that's
back.
that's the congressman's Al Green from Texas, and he's done, and he'll do it again, I guarantee.
We'll come back and do a little fact checking. More with Pat and Trygve, Zombers and Todd. It's the Allbaugh Show in Civic Media. Well, apparently we've lost a listener in Sun Prairie. What did he say? Mike in Sun Prairie says Mike Johnson never looked strong. It showed the viewers that someone finally stood up to Trump on national TV. Thank God, this is a good thing. It's a needed thing. Oh, good Lord, you guys are a bunch of apologists. I'm turning off your show.
Well,
No,
I hope they come
don't.
back.
Stop. Wait. No. Don't go.
We're actually gonna fact check, but
Oh, we can. You know what? Summers can lead in with, please don't go. Please don't. I have a song for every occasion.
You talking Casey and the Sunshine Band one?
Oh, yeah.
Babe?
Isn't it? I think it is. No, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
there.
babe,
How about.
I love you so.
Yeah.
Please don't go.
Don't go. Yes, it is. That's exactly right. I was thinking when you said babe, that
You're
Styx
thinking
song.
Sticks. No,
You,
that's not.
babe.
Ugh, no.
hey,
No, no,
Trygve,
no.
can you turn down your mic just a little bit, or
I will on.
All right,
I
it's a
got
little
it.
hot. All right, thank you.
He runs a little.
Trygve's
hot.
coming in hot.
I'm coming in hot. No hot takes, though.
I feel like we probably shouldn't do that song.
I
I want to
liked
make
it.
fun of a.
Yeah.
No, don't do
right,
that.
I just wanted to clarify.
Can we have you and Pat fight again? I like that.
He tried. He tried.
I tried. I did try baiting him. I did. And the Xanax just would not allow it today. So we all have mine's Wellbutrin. We all have the things that keep us going,
Whatever gets you through the night.
whatever it is. And
I'm not getting through the night very well lately. I
Sometimes
keep
it's
waking up.
20 an old
seconds.
fashioned, but whatever it is.
One bottle.
Oh gosh.
Another bottle. Here's another bottle.
First it was the big bottle of bourbon this morning. Now it's the pill bottles. He is our Marilyn Monroe. Be careful out there.
Stealing old outhouses from one-room schoolhouses in Chippewa Valley and putting them on Lake Wissota just to see when they'll fall through. That's entertainment every morning on Up North News Radio from 6 until 8. Patrick Kreitlow, along with us from beautiful Lake Wissota. Travie Olson, senior advisor at the Lincoln Project, joining us from our nation's capital. Do you guys?
Never would do that. I would not haul something out on the lake because I'd have to go out there, and I firmly believe in Murphy's Law that I never go out on the ice, and the one time I would go out there would be the time I go through. So, I have to plead innocent to any charges of hauling outhouses out on the lake.
I've been to Eagle River, where every year I think it's the Lions Club takes they take all the engine and all the oil out, but they take it like the what am I trying to say, shell of an old car. Thank you. And they put that on the ice, and then they raise a lot of money, and you pick what day that's going to fall through the ice, and it's attached to a rope or a chain, so they pull it out right away. But
do they still do that? I thought even
Eagle
that.
River,
I thought even that was being, shall we say, poo-pooed by the authorities. But no, if they're doing it all right, and it's not causing any damage. I'm all for it. I like it.
Yeah, just some fun.
Honestly, just letting it in the bottom of the lake isn't the worst thing. It provides
fish crib.
places. It rusts out fish crib. Exactly.
Yep.
It's a protected place for little fish.
Uh,
That become big fish.
do that. Can we do
people
that?
like Pat pull out of the water.
Eventually that is going to have cyber trucks. All these cyber trucks that can't stand getting hit by a Nerf football are eventually all going to become fish cribs at some point.
As long as you take out the battery first.
Yes, please.
I don't want to get into a big long conversation about this. We've had some texts on here not liking my take on some of this stuff from the presidential address last night. One caller, Steve in Milwaukee, says, "Why didn't they kick out Marjorie Taylor Greene? She was even worse for Biden." And yes, I don't agree with anything that they did to Biden either. Yeah, the congressman, Republican guy who yelled out liar to Barack Obama. I don't agree with any of it. I'm an institution guy. I like decorum. I like respect. But the difference is, if you really want to get down to it, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Bobart yelled out something like 10 seconds, and they stopped and they sat down. This guy last night continued on. Johnson gave him a warning. He continued on. And you don't respect the rules of the institution, and that's it. So that's the difference. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into that.
Okay.
Last night, lots of misinformation. I want to point out a couple of these things because they're all over the internet, all over Fox News. One of the lines was on transgender mice. Here's the fact check on that one.
$8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
All right, so this was another one of those if Trump said it, it has to be true moments. But Trump actually misspoke here big time. Because what Trump should have said is scientists were making mice transgenic, not transgender. And as you can see here, transgenic mouse technology has revolutionized virtually all fields of biology and provided new genetic approaches to model many human diseases in a whole animal context. So as you can see here in the transgenic mouse model, scientists add human cells to mice so that when they introduce diseases and study them, these mice and their tissue react more like human tissue. And that's how we end up at a University of Cincinnati website where they're talking about their $8 million study to continue gene-environment interaction research. So yeah, Dunny, instead of stopping research where you say it was transgender mice, you actually stopped research that might help us figure out how diseases affect the human body.
There
I
you
have
go.
nothing to add to that.
Just what, but I think it's good to play this because it's one example that was repeated tens, if not dozens of times last night, probably bordering 100, where you take something, I don't even want to say it's based in fact, it's based in wording, I guess, and then you bastardize the word and make up something that's completely different.
And along those lines, and now it's time for me to get in trouble with Wisconsin Democrats everywhere.
All right.
There is a lot of good things to say about Bill Proxmire. A lot. But I will also contend that the Golden Fleece Award for wasteful spending oftentimes miss the mark for that very reason, that there are things that sound silly on their face because you're not the scientist who has figured out that, hey, if you study this thing through mice, this is going to improve human health. But when you only look at part of the story, of course it looks like wasteful spending. It's why the critics of federal spending always have a leg up, because it's always easy to pick something and go, how ridiculous is this? Because they're not going to sit through that report you just played about how that's actually valuable use of my tax dollar so that I, or maybe my kids or grandkids, will be healthier than I am someday.
And it had nothing to do, to be clear, with making mice transgender
that's
in
just,
any
that's
way,
just
shape, or form.
icing on the cake. Icing on the misinformation cake, basically.
Trigby?
Well, what it's doing is it's playing on the fact that, people are addressing their politics through habit, through they're not really consciously thinking about what he's saying. They're just like, yeah, I can see the government doing that, right? So it becomes a reinforcing mechanism. If you actually think about like his riff on Social Security and you consciously think about it, you're like, okay, this is ridiculous, but there has to be more to the story, right?
Yes.
Like maybe they never got the death certificates or whatever. But that's not the point of it. The point of what he's doing with this, which is what he's been doing for a long time, war on Christmas or whatever, find something that seems so outrageous, say it, even though it's not grounded in truth, and understand that it's just one thing that people, they aren't going to think about the fact that he said transgender mice and it's not transgender mice. What they're going to think about is, yeah, that's pretty much what the government does, waste my money. And they may not even be able to cite that specific. So,
and what that does,
it really was a psychological attack.
It takes away then what people could have been talking about over these past few minutes is the AP obtaining an internal memo this morning showing that the Trump administration is planning to cut 80,000 jobs from the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Yeah, got it in my hot little hand.
That is a hot little hand there. Look at the steam coming off that thing. That is the thing that really is going to impact people more than any little bit of rodentia research that we could be talking about. And that's all intentional, like you said, Trig, from Trump, to distract from real world matters like this.
And here's the thing that people have to keep in mind who are listening. For these guys, and this is what they're missing. One person's veteran husband who has PTSD and needs help is apparently another man's waste, fraud, and abuse.
Right.
And that, if you're not thinking about it, and part of what Democrats have to do is they need to personalize this far more and be appealing to the fact that most Americans are going to stand with the vet.
Come back, more Trigby. Thank you, Patrick. Every morning, 6 to 8.
You betcha.
Up North News Radio. Have a good week. More Trigby, Social Security, whatever else we can talk about, and democracy on Civic Media is ready now.
As an afterthought. And democracy.
Well, he has a new report on democracy.
Oh,
And it
okay.
turns out people
Oh,
like
yeah,
it.
on fears. I'll send it to you, Pat. You can forward it around to whoever can use it. We've just
I
got
can't
done.
get mine to
And it's
open.
Wisconsin. It's Wisconsin-based research. What do you mean you can't get it to open?
It's stuck on the screen that says beautiful.ai, and it just keeps going around and around and around.
Really?
Yeah. But
Well, now I've got to see this thing. I got to see if I can open it. It's like a
probably can, because I'm
jar
I'm
of pickles
technology
that you just
deficient.
can't get open. So.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. We appreciate you. I mean, but I mean, I get.
Opens
I mean,
in mine. It must be some
it's
kind
probably
of thing
just-
that you have.
Send it to send it to Pattinsville.
Send it to those Zombers will get it for you. It's okay. See you later, guys.
Or if you send
I'll
it to
send
me,
it
that
to
will
you,
also
Pat.
work.
Bye.
Dairy products, again, we're going to see fairly big possible impacts there. Again, the milk market really has been on the slide the last couple of weeks again. So again, probably pricing a lot of this in at that time.
All right, so we got a cut on the fact checking of the Social Security that you said we can use that. We've got a thing from a veteran who was fired, so we could use that. And we got to talk about your report.
Yeah, here, I'm sending it.
There is a possibility of huge detriments to the U.S. ag economy moving forward with these tariffs. For the Midwest,
And we got LA Tom and we got Mark
and we'll take a look at those
from
midday
Perdisac.
markets right after this.
$1 billion. That's how much equipment is stolen from U.S. construction sites every year. These thieves are stalling projects, hurting
We can put it out on
family-owned
the,
businesses, and driving up costs for everyone.
We can put it
Judge
out
Brad
on the social
Schimmel
media
takes
feed
theft
too, if you want.
seriously.
Sure,
He
that's
holds
cool if you're cool
criminals
with it.
accountable and protects the people who are just trying to do their jobs. Call Judge
Let's
Schimmel
actually try
and
to open
thank
up
him
my
for
phone
protecting
because
us.
you sent it to me on my
Paid for
phone
by the
first of all.
Associated Builders and Contractors of Wisconsin.
Well, hold on to your britches, everybody. It's time to go nuts at the Springfield Corners Testicle Festival. March 8th, you can enjoy deep-fried
You want to come back and do the testicle festival with me, Trigby?
No.
Join me and the fabulous Farm Babe along with the rest of
Probably the right answer.
I asked Kreitlow that this morning on his show, and I got the same answer.
To try some fried Rocky Mountain oysters. It all kicks off after 2 p.m. on March 8th. Springfield Corners. See Facebook for more details.
All right, yeah, it opened up my phone. It must be. I need to restart my computer, obviously.
Now let's see how those markets are moving midday on a Wednesday. It looks like they are trying to rebound a tiny bit today as cash corn is up 1 3/4, up 4.53 1/4, and new.
Any music you want to hear?
At 4.44 3/4. Cash soybeans are up 7 3/4 at 10.06 3/4. With new crop soybeans up 3 3/4 at 10.07.
Coming of Age by Damn Yankees.
Contracts are up 8
Wow,
3/4
all
at
right.
5.45 1/2.
Little
With
Jack
July wheat up
Blades.
7 at 5.58 1/4. Class 3 milk contracts are seeing slight gains as April contracts are up 4 cents at 17.63 a hundredweight, and May contracts are up 12 cents at 17.90 a hundredweight. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Ben Jarbo.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
Snow this afternoon paired with vicious winds, prompting a wind advisory with gusts around 40 to 50 miles per hour. This will blow and drift and make it hard to see with the snow this afternoon, with total snow accumulations around 1 inch. Then it'll be sunny and near 40 tomorrow. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. It's 33 at our studios.
For some reason, LA, we're gonna get you in a second. LA, hang on. I promise you, we're gonna get to you.
Saturday morning, I haven't missed one. Outstanding, just like being in school.
It has been a week in the areas of law and government and the aspiration for justice in America. As always, I am delighted. I am honored that you have chosen to spend some of your weekend time with me in discussion.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel. Saturday mornings from 9 to 11. The
But
John
you're right.
Gordy
You're right,
Show.
LA.
We're here with
gonna
Mike
start with
McKay.
that.
They
Actually,
are, Mike, the town halls, the reaction that the Republicans are getting in their own districts. It's kind of shocking, refreshing, by the
30
way.
seconds.
I'm glad that.
can stop him from the blue line to the net is a Zamboni. Trigby Olson, senior advisor to Lincoln Project and a River Falls native, joins us from his home in suburban Washington, D.C. A great hockey player, a great winter guy. That's on your, when you put that on your playlist, there's nothing that can stop you.
I got in a Tilly the other night. I was going to the net and I got lassoed, and I was not happy. No, right up high.
Oh man!
And I got up and I was miffed. He didn't want to fight though.
All right.
That's the problem with men's league hockey. Everybody's so nice. He's like, I'm so sorry, dude. I didn't mean to do that. And I wanted to knock his head off.
Right. You were looking for some aggression. Right.
Yeah, I was ready to go. And then he's like, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to do that. And I'm like, it's okay.
That's fun.
We're friends now. Yeah.
All right, so talking just a little bit more about this speech by Trump last night, joint session of Congress. And look, I know we're getting some stuff on the text line or whatever. I know, and to Kreitlow's point, yes, this big story just broke about an hour ago that the Trump administration now saying that they plan to cut 80,000 employees from Veterans Affairs, and that's 100% important. We're going to talk about it. But I also believe that from traveling around the state, and I know people get fed up with Facebook. I am 55 years old. I'm a Gen Xer. People my age are all over Facebook. And this kind of stuff, this disinformation that Trump put out last night, it amplifies on Facebook. And when you don't correct it, when you don't hit back, that's when you lose. And that's why it's a whole nother kettle of fish, bottle of wine, cup of coffee. That's why you can talk ad nauseum and give people the facts on Schimmel, on this Supreme Court race, and people look at you glazed eyes. They look at Facebook and they say, he's the one running against that catch-and-release Crawford, right? Because that's the stuff that sticks. And if you don't correct it, it sticks.
Is that? I haven't seen the catch. I haven't been on Facebook. I hate to tell you this, but I'm trying to take a break. But is that
No,
what?
it's on
They're,
TV
is that
and
what? Is it?
Facebook.
Is it catch and release Crawford? Is the?
It's all over.
It's catchy.
Our friend and colleague Jane Matnair did a great job on Matnair on Air. She had Judge Crawford on the program, I think last week, right? And Jane teed it up and said, Judge Crawford, there's a lot of different disinformation out there about you right now, isn't there? And she whiffed. She didn't really even address this stuff. And now, and there was a woman, calm down, Todd. There was a woman from my hometown, Richland Center, who listens to us on WRCE. I don't know who the person is. And she called up and she said, look, I am a liberal voter. I have a row t-shirt, like ROE. But she said, when are these guys going to address these catch-and-release Crawford TV ads? Because that's all we're seeing out here. And that is from a rural progressive voter. And people want to get down and nuanced about Brad Schimmel's legal record. It doesn't work. Trivy, you've won a lot more races than I have. Am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right. The reality is, at a foundational level, which is what I've been, catch and release Crawford. She's with us. No, they, them, or whatever. It's all the same attack. At a basic psychological level, it's all the same attack, and it's about culture. But what it's really saying is it's really saying she's not one of us, right? And the only way that you can respond, and I think when we had Judge Crawford on, I tried to get at this. The only way you respond to that in a place like Wisconsin is you look directly at the camera and you say, like Tammy Baldwin did, Eric Hovde is lying. You know who I am.
Right.
Here's the facts.
And
because people don't like to be, people in places like Wisconsin don't like to be played for fools. And assuming that there is a far bigger story, she's going to have to go on camera, look to the camera, and speak directly to the people of the state of Wisconsin. It's the point I tried to make to her.
And she did, to her credit. She has a response ad like that now out there, although I've only seen it in the wild once. But then she muddies it at the end by saying something about personal responsibility. And it just, like,
It feels like it's trying, like the first half of it is great, where it does the same thing Tammy Baldwin did. It has her addressing the audience and saying, look, you've seen these ads, they're lies. But then she doesn't actually give the reason they're lies.
Right.
And so it kind of feels like a diluted message instead of directly addressing the problem.
Anyway, I didn't mean to go off of the whole Supreme Court race, but I guess it gets back to why I wanted to spend some time talking about the lies from Trump last night on the dais, or at the dais in the House chamber. Another one of these is, and I promise, I'm sorry, LA Tom, when Mark, hang on there. We're going to get to your calls in a second, but I want to make sure we get this out. I want to play a little bit of this. This is addressing the Trump lies last night on Social Security. Here's a fact check from CNN.
The president talked at length about millions of people being listed as alive in a Social Security database, even though they're obviously dead. Listen.
3.9 million people from ages 130 to 139. 3.5 million people from ages 140 to 149. And money is being paid to many of them because it just keeps getting paid and nobody does. And it really hurts Social Security and hurts our country. And one person is listed at 360 years of age, more than 100 years older than our country.
I've spoken to conservative experts about this claim, and they've noted, Jake, that the president is leaving out something absolutely critical to understanding this issue. Here's what he failed to explain. These numbers are not the numbers of dead people who are actually getting paid Social Security checks. Trump was referring to a legitimate problem with some deaths not being marked in the Social Security database, but that doesn't mean people listed as being 150, 200, 300 are actually getting money. And that's because Social Security already has a system in place to automatically cut off people who are listed as being 115 or older. Now, 2 years ago, an inspector general looked into this. She found there were about 19 million people 100 or older who were not marked as deceased. But critically, she also found that only 44,000 of these people were actually receiving payments. And one conservative expert told me even those 44K are likely legit payments, since at the time there were about 86,000 living Americans age 100 or older. Now let's listen to something the president said about the war in Ukraine.
I think that's enough. I want to get the Social Security part out there. So as it turns out, nobody's getting checks. I mean, there are systems in place. It just has to do with some of the I guess the writing, I guess, in the code or whatever. This stuff is still listed, but nobody's getting checks who are long since dead. But Trump spins this Trigby in a way to gin people up, and if we don't put out the truth, then it goes untested or unchecked.
Well, yes, there's that, but what it really is, I mean, it's a classic play of throw it out there, reinforce people's habit or preconceived narratives. This is government's out of control. There's all kinds of waste, fraud, and abuse. This is Joe Biden's fault. Democrats, they or them or the others don't care about this. We do, right? And move on. It's the war on Christmas, one Christmas tree.
Let's get to calls quickly. 855-752-4842. Mark and Prairie Sac, you've been hanging on. I appreciate your patience. Mark, what say you?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous you have to confront these lies. What really got me is you just talked about the 80,000 people that are going to cut out of the VA. I see all these commercials on television raising money for the Wounded Warriors Project and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, why the heck aren't we supporting these guys through the VA anyway, supporting these services, which they have earned through their service to the United States, the injuries they have sustained, is we, the taxpayers, should be footing that bill through the VA. And for them to be cutting 80,000 workers out of this, that's cutting services directly away from our veterans. And damn them for doing that kind of thing. It just disgusts me.
Yeah,
it just disgusts me. And we got to call it out as disgusting as it is, because they are betraying our service people that have given their health to our country. And we're doing this kind of thing, and that's got to be called out for what it is, because it's just, we see Donald Trump, Corporal Bone Spurs, who never served, for anybody but himself, and Elon Musk trotting around out there who has never served anybody but himself.
Right.
It is just disgusting.
Up against the clock. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. Want to get to a caller in, or a texter rather, in Chippewa Falls. I think it was Ann talking about again about the Schimmel Crawford Supreme Court races that are going to be a debate. Couldn't she say something then like Tammy Baldwin did? Yes, and you're absolutely right. Listening to WCFW of Chippewa Falls. Coming up here in a couple weeks, I believe the 12th, Wednesday the 12th of March, there is a Supreme Court debate. That will be a big one, as right now it is the only debate between the two before the April 1st election. Let's go quickly to, where are we going? L.A. Tom. L.A. Tom is back on the line. L.A., thanks for your patience. What say you?
Yeah, I would just like to say that first, everyone needs to go look at Bernie Sanders' response last night to the speech because he really hits back and he tells the truth and he doesn't focus so much on what Trump is doing, but he focuses on what we should be doing as almost a shadow government, which I know Trigby and I have talked about before. It's very, very important that the Democrats show what it is that they are actually wanting to do for the country. We all know Trump is a liar. So I don't know why we need to go through point by point, because what he does is he goes and throws out, and Trigby, maybe you can answer why this is in the human brain, but why is it that you throw the most outrageous thing out there that you can possibly think of? People repeat the most outrageous thing all day long, whether it's a joke or serious. They say it's a lie, but by then it's already made its way around the whole country. And, he probably meant to say transgender just so he can get his little word in transgender somewhere in there as well. So, again, I'm repeating it even, and it's bad. So why is it that human beings go and repeat these stupid, outrageous things over and over again before repeating things like Medicare for all, taxing the billionaire? I would just like to know why you think that might be. And I also would like for everyone to really check out Bernie's response, because he is nothing more than an FDR Democrat, and FDR got elected by more people, in terms of landslide elections than anybody.
Appreciate the call, Todd.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate that.
Trigby, got 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reinforcement mechanism, right? It really isn't about whatever it is that's the specific. It's about the bigger narrative and reinforcing that narrative as an example. And part of us as humans, every time we say that or repeat it, and that's what they know, it's reinforcing in our own mind that narrative. Okay, there's all kinds of waste, fraud, and abuse. And the truth of the matter is, it's not like Elon and the Doge people are the first people to take a look at it, and it's not like there probably are things that could be cut. But the reality is, there are lots of smart people, Simpson Bowles, the inspector generals. There's all kinds of mechanisms that have been set up to try and weed these things out. And what you have to ask yourself is it those examples, are they true, or is it probably, if something's so foolish that it seems like it's probably not the full story, it's probably not the full story.
Yeah. 855-752-4842. Let's go quickly to Wisco. Paul, Wisco, you got 1 minute. It's all yours. What say you?
Okay, thanks for taking my call. My time Tribune. I want to say something about the Supreme Court race. You should never lose to Schimmel with all his ties to Walker. I don't know if the same people are running her campaign as Della Barnes' campaign. That was a disaster. Look what Johnson did to him. And it's the same playbook over and over and over again. By the time the election was over with Mandela, you thought he was the guy driving the car in the parade. So get on board here. Let's get going with this campaign, because you can't lose to the Schimmel, for goodness sake. So I want to rant on that one today, because I want fair math. And thanks for having Trivia on live.
Trivia is always popular. The phone lines are lit up. Come back. We'll take your calls in order they were received. Trivia Olson, Senior Advisor to the Lincoln Project. Come on back. It's the Allbaugh Show on Civic Media.
You should
Boy, Trivia's like
great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
I'll make the point on the other side. It's the same. It's
Judge
the same
Brad
people
Schimmel
running
is
the
an
campaign
anti-choice
for
politician
Trump,
whose
Johnson.
positions are too.
Yeah,
it's the same people.
Right.
That's why it's the same playbook. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and thinking you're going to get a different result. But the irony is Tammy Baldwin has showed them the way how you respond to this. I don't understand why they're not.
No,
And honestly, I will say this too. Like I don't understand why there isn't more recognition, and I don't know Tammy's people. Like her team, I know who they are, but I don't.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you the level of respect. They are as good at what they do as Tommy Thompson's team with McCoshin and all those guys that were winning over and over again are. They are that good. Why you don't look at what they did and say what can I learn? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't.
Let's look at Jeff in Appleton. Doge rating government offices. All right, we'll talk about that. We'll see. We got Cam, Lincoln Project question.
Think about back when we were running all those specials, right? In the 90s, early 90s. We kept getting our posteriors kicked, but every single one of them we learned from, and we're like, what can we take away from this? And eventually we started winning. There was that lady, what's her name? Woody was running the campaign. Kathy, whatever her name was, in Madison.
Bernier?
No. Was it? No, not Kathy Bernier. She was running, I think she lost to Erkenbrock.
Oh, yeah. It's not Kathy.
It was a special election, and I forget whose district.
She had she owns the one of the athletic clubs here in Madison.
Yeah,
you have about 10 seconds.
Right.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 9 before the hour of 1 o'clock. CBS, ABC News coming up. What's worse in hour 2 as well. Drigby, what are you doing? Do you stay around and there's like 15 minutes?
I might hang around for what's worse.
All right.
You know
cool.
what? If somebody could text or call in and tell us what's unique about that song that we just heard, Sister Christian by Night Ranger, I would be amazed to see if we can.
All right.
If someone can tell me what's unique about that song.
Call in
there's
or
something unique about
text
it.
in. Really? All right, fantastic. Well, that's great. We'll look forward to nervous anticipation of that. Talking kind of simultaneous current events right now. The Supreme Court race in Wisconsin between Crawford and Schimmel. Also, some of Trump's comments last night. Jim listening in, a brand new texter. We appreciate that, Jim, from beautiful Campbellsport. Campbellsport had a great wrestling team at one time.
Yes.
Jim in Campbellsport says, Todd, I agree with you. Schimmel is trying to brand Crawford like Trump and Hovde. It plays to the lowest denominator. She needs to be direct with the voter. I will always say it needs to be non-political. Thanks, Jim and Campbellsport, listening on WAUK. We appreciate you very much for listening and being a new caller here. Also, Sean in Richland Center on WRCE saying Trigby told Judge Crawford exactly how the campaign would be run against her. She glossed over what he said, and here we are. Makes me think maybe she isn't qualified. Well, I don't agree with that. I think she's very qualified.
No, I don't agree with that either. She's qualified.
She's very qualified. Mary in Mount Horeb, listening on WMDX, says, where's Ben Wickler with the Supreme Court race? Has he given up since he lost the DNC chair? No, I don't think so, Mary. I think maybe he was distracted, but he certainly is not.
Ben is working. I know for a fact Ben is working his posterior off to get her through.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the annals of problems, Ben is the least.
He's doing great. I mean, he's actually
he's not a problem.
Right.
He's the one of he might be the best asset that the Democrats in Wisconsin have.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Let's go quickly to the phone lines, 855-752-4842. Let's go to Cam in Appleton. Cam, thanks for calling. What say you?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, Cam.
Okay, so, Travi, I remember when I first tuned in, I guess, to the election night in 2024, I sat and watched for, like, pretty close to the majority of it. I I watched your face grow. I don't know if gaunt is the right word, but you to me, from when I hear you, have a very analytical brain. I would say, and I'm not trying to psychoanalyze you or anything. I'm just saying, from the glimpse I've seen of you, you have a very analytical brain. And I remember seeing like a scared, surprised look on your face. And the numbers weren't matching up. I really like the Lincoln Project. I like their ads, but I feel like their resources are better put towards groups like the Election Truth Alliance right now. I'm not saying take away money from Lincoln Project. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. It's just that groups like Election Truth Alliance need support right now because they have lawyers lined up that need to be paid, but they're ready to challenge the data that they've collected that need forensic audits for states like Nevada and Wisconsin.
The numbers added up in the sense. First of all, let me say this. I think, and we work with a lot of those groups, like Mark Elias, for example, who is heavily involved in trying to protect elections. We have to try and protect elections. I think people need to support those organizations. There's plenty of room for both. The reason, and I am fairly analytical about this stuff, the reason that election night was troubling to me was I could see the erosion. Harris didn't lose Wisconsin because, the kind of voters that we targeted at Lincoln Project, which would be sort of disaffected Republicans, right of center voters who Trump was a bridge too far. Both she and Baldwin did well enough with them. What I saw was this erosion amongst younger men, even younger women to a degree. And it is true that the way that we beat Trump is going to require a broad coalition of voters. And there were voters within the Democratic base who didn't show up. And there were voters that the Democratic base, quite frankly, took for granted. And I actually have some research, Todd, coming out in the next few days about voters who invest in crypto. From Wisconsin is one of the 4 states. And I think you'll find, we can share that via social media for people like Chad. Yep. And they need to take a look at it because those were voters who Donald Trump courted and won.
There's a little tease for you. Trivia's going to stick around for a couple minutes to hour 2 and talk about that. Let's go quickly to Troy in Mount Horeb, listening to WMDX. Troy, if you could get it in 45 seconds, please. Go ahead.
All right, real quick. First of all, Sister Christian, the guy that wrote it about another bandmate's sister. And my question was going to be, should the Democrats have just not gone? No, that's true. And
I know it is true. I know. That was my factoid about it.
There you go.
Jack Blades wrote it about the drummer singer's sister.
What's the question? Quick, Troy.
I forgot who was who, but.
Yep.
All right, the question. What were we going to say?
I was going to say, should the Democrats have just skipped the speech completely, as some people are saying?
15 seconds, Strigby.
No, they needed to be there.
They needed to be there. I agree. I absolutely agree. Okay, very good. Come on back. Trivia's going to stick around for hour 2, talk a little bit about some new research in Wisconsin on voters, and also he wants to play along with What's Worse. So come on back for that. Zommers, Trigby, Allbaugh on the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Isn't that? I knew somebody would know that.
Go.
Yep.
Troy, he's
Jack Blades wrote that song about the drummer who sings the song, Kelly Kiki's sister.
Did he know that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he knew it.
Huh.
Yep.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that a good little factoid?
That is a good factoid.
Mm-hmm. I knew somebody would know that.
Good stuff.
I still want to have a show with Zommers about music.
We could.
Totally. Maybe we could put it out as a podcast too.
You can always continue the conversation on social media.
Oh, Trigby. I want to go to Belize. The Chuckster in Racine says Trump's really itching for that Nobel Peace Prize. Today he's had the U.S. military intelligence sharing with Ukraine suspended, making it much harder for to target Russian supply depots, military assets, etc. The further he brings Zelensky to his knees, he gets to peace plan rolling and rare earth minerals too. Yeah, good point, Chuckster.
Except for the fact that most of the rare earth minerals that exist in Ukraine are in Russian-held territory, and I'm pretty sure that they're not going to be getting them. I think China probably will get most of them. But facts, man, facts. They're silly little things.
And he said that's okay because it's worth it in the long run.
It's also led to trading partners retaliating with their own tariffs on U.S. goods. Vice President J.D. Vance visiting the border city of Eagle Pass, Texas today.
But you can still rock in America.
Have led to dramatically fewer arrests for illegal crossings during the initial weeks of the Trump
Todd is laughing at your edits right now, Cam. Specifically the Maggie Dawn one.
It says, it has a great picture of Maggie. And then above it says, does your child slam fingers in the car door? Call me.
He also has just an image of Calvin, one of the other producers, just going back and forth.
Good Lord. All right, what do we want to highlight here in the research?
We should talk about the fact, and I think we can say we'll put it out on social media. That one of the things that we have to understand is that in terms of talking with people, different kinds of people, is there's 5 different kinds of sets of fears that people in America are holding today. And people are afraid about a lot of things, but you need to understand what kind of person you're talking about. Are they high anxiety generalists? Are they economic warriors? Where do they fall in this spectrum? Because that is really important as you're talking to people who think differently, to be asking them questions about what those fears are.
Yeah.
Because our fears are not all the same. And so if your fears, it's not about what you're fearing could happen, the destruction of democracy or whatever. It's about what those friends or family or others in your life, it's about what are they fearing? And how do you communicate a positive message to them about what your side is going to try and do? And if they're afraid of waste, fraud, and abuse, then you need to ask them questions about the specifics. Do you really believe we're paying, the government is so foolish that they're paying people who are 350 years old? And when they say, yeah, I could see them doing that, that's when you follow up with the story that it's not true, or that the government's paying for transgender mice. Well, I don't think you need to spur them to think, but you need to understand what they really fear to be able to do that effectively.
Right,
if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense to me. Zommers, makes sense to you?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. There's 2 votes. We click them off.
All right.
Excuse me.
And Pat found a typo I can't correct.
Oh, man. The editor that he is.
He is.
Men's college basketball, number 12th ranked Wisconsin in Minnesota tonight for the border battle, while number 20th ranked Marquette seeking revenge at UConn. NFL, Green Bay Packers re-signing kicker Brandon McManus to a new 3-year deal with $15.3 million.
There you go.
McManus gets a $5 million signing
As
bonus
Ula will
with
always
another
say.
$5 million guaranteed. He turns 34 this summer at the start of training camp. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
This is your local
Cam in
Civic
Appleton
Media radio
says,
station.
Trigby reminds me of a chill David Cross.
Needs to paint himself blue.
Snow this afternoon paired with vicious winds, prompting a wind advisory.
I'm pretty
with
chill
gusts of
usually.
40 to 50 miles
He
per
is
Not
hour.
when a
usually.
guy lassos me on the ice, though, man.
With total snow accumulations around
I
1
bet
inch.
you were.
Then it'll be sunny and near 40 tomorrow.
Takes a lot
I'm
to get me
meteorologist
mad.
Brittany Merlot. It's 33 at our studios.
Riled up.
Oh, I was.
Are the keepers of the wild. For more than 80 years, we've
I
been
feel like
committed to conserving
it just
the
takes very
landscapes
specific things to get me mad.
Nothing is more important than maintaining
Like the Big Ten.
places for adventurers to
You know what's
explore.
funny though? When I get mad at somebody, I stay mad. And my Kaya, who obviously some listeners and Todd have met, she's like Erica. She gets mad fast, and then she holds it. So it's
Really?
like
Yeah.
Erica's great because Erica gets mad fast, and then boom, it's over.
It's over,
Like
yeah.
it's such a better way to be. And so,
increased unemployment.
yeah.
That's going to have an impact on the economy.
But Kaya's got the worst because she gets mad fast and then she stays mad.
Prices, what happens to the farmers? What is the point here?
And she knows it about herself too.
Really? Yeah.
Decision making, wasting our
We got 30 seconds.
taxpayers'
All right, here we
dollars
go.
by wasting people's time.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. Todd Allbaugh, along with engineer and producer Mr. Aaron Zommers on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome into hour number 2 of the big program here. It is Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite, and it is Hump Day. There you go. The old camel got in on the snow across much of Wisconsin today. Some school districts decided to either have classes remotely or call them off altogether because of the mixture of precipitation, rain, ice, snow. Some places have it all. Places like Rice Lake, Amory, perhaps as much as 8 inches, lesser amounts. Other places in Wisconsin, here in Madison, downtown at the world headquarters, we take a look outside on the streets on State Street right now. Some snow. It's still kind of flurries right now, but a little bit of wetness on the pavement. We probably got an inch or so here in Madison, but check out 511wi.gov to all the road conditions across the state of Wisconsin. This is going to continue for some parts of the state, the moisture that is through today. So just be aware of that. We need the rain for farmers and ag producers, but certainly makes it slippery out there on the roadways. 7 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock. Trigby Olson, senior advisor at the Lincoln Project, a River Falls native, great hockey player, has stuck. Also a Green Bay Packer owner.
Not that great a hockey player. You got to stop that.
Has stuck around for the second half, the hour number 2 here of the program, and we appreciate that because we're going to play What's Worse a little bit later on here this half hour. Timely indeed, having to do with roads and people. They can both be slippery. What's worse? We'll talk about that in a little while. But right now, Trigby, you came back, and I appreciate this because this is really great. We talk about the Lincoln Project a lot, but there's an offshoot called the Lincoln Democracy Institute, and I want you to explain a little bit your involvement with that. And you have some new research, and you're so very kind as to debut this on our show. And I think it's really important stuff for us to understand one another and understand how we talk to each other as Wisconsinites.
Yeah, so the Lincoln Democracy Institute is our 501c4, which means it's less political. They don't do ads. What we do with Lincoln Democracy Institute is really focus on what are the things that we can do to protect and defend democracy. and we do a lot of research. And in the course of doing our research, we came to an understanding that, quite frankly, we need to not just do political research, but we really need to look into what's happening at the individual level and why people are making choices that are antithetical to democracy and maybe antithetical to who they are in their daily lives. And so what we did is we put together panel research. And what panel research is, in the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Arizona, across all of them, we've recruited 4,000 people. 1,000 of them are in Wisconsin. And we have, for the last year, been having conversations with them, giving them surveys, having them take different tests so we know what their personality traits are, what their values are, what roles they play, do they have kids, trying to understand and work with these people who have all volunteered to be a part of this and receive some compensation when they're helping us out. Really understand who they are, and it's a great project. And one of the things that we just released today is a PowerPoint, and Todd, we can push it out via social media, I think. People can go and look at it, is on the fears. We asked people about 40 fears, and we would say to the respondents, Todd, on a scale of 0, not afraid at all, to 100, how afraid are you of an economic depression in your lifetime? And you would answer, and then we'd say, Todd, how afraid are you of a nuclear war happening in your lifetime? How afraid are you of traditional American values being replaced, or climate change, or whatever? We've gone through and looked at all of those fears, and we work with a lot of academics on this. And there are 5 kinds of fears that when you encounter people, they're going to be one of 5 kinds of people in terms of their fears. They may be institutionally skeptical, i.e. they're worried about government, wasting their money, or, institutions failing. High anxiety generalists who tend to be afraid of lots of different things. Political chaos warriors, people who are worried about democracy and it failing. Economic security seekers, and the future shocked. And that's people who are worried about what the future looks like, things like AI. And so when we think about each of these groups, when you're talking to somebody, if you meet somebody who talks a lot about being afraid of America's future, immigration, traditional values being replaced, you're probably talking to an institutional skeptic. Now, they are far more likely to be Trump voters, about 70%, right? The kinds of things that you need to, when you're talking to them, and the kinds of questions that you need to be asking them need to focus on the fact that that they have a high level of distrust and suspicion about others. So you need to make it about individuals that they know that might be different, right? And why they might be different. If you're talking to a high anxiety generalist, people who are afraid of things like affording necessities, economic depression, their kids growing up in a worse America, so they kind of cross over with the other group, you need to be asking questions about, are tariffs, for example, benefiting you? Oh, you work in agriculture. Have you seen that USAID being suspended is going to cost Wisconsin farmers upwards of $150 million in cheese that won't be bought, right? You need to focus, if you're talking to a political chaos warrior, people who would be far more likely to vote for Harris, almost 70% of them, about things like corrupt or incompetent government officials or billionaires controlling government, because that's their fears, right?
So you and I can sit here and talk about this all day. And this
No.
is when Trigby and I go across the state, oftentimes I just sit there as fascinated because you really do know this stuff and you dive down deep on it and you're obsessed in a good way. And I find it so fascinating. Let's step back for a second for people who aren't as obsessed as you and I are, and kind of put this in more, common English terms. In all this research, Trigby, give us, 1 or 2 or 3 things at the most that the big takeaways from this, particularly in Wisconsin. What are people really afraid of, and how can we talk and have thoughtful discussions with those folks?
So when you what are people afraid of is going to, and this is where people need to look at the data. That's going to vary depending on which of these 5 kinds of fears that people hold.
Are there any
Because
through lines, or are there things that are common, or no?
No, they're each of us comes at looking at the world differently, right? A little bit. And so the things we fear are going to be shaped by the events that we think that matter and our personal experiences. So if you're a guy who's our age and you remember the Cold War, you might be more shaped by those experiences than you would be by the pandemic. If you're a younger person and you never experienced 9/11 or the financial crisis, you're probably going to be more shaped by, the pandemic, right? And what you went through. So the first rule of having conversations with people is understanding it's not about you and what you think. It's about how they see the world.
Yeah.
And thinking in your mind when you're having a discussion with them that may not be going well, what is it that they really fear, and what are the things that shaped their understanding of the world? And how do I ask questions about that will help them see? The second thing that we are missing is you don't shame people out of their values, right? So trying to present people with all kinds of facts isn't going to get them to change their opinions. In fact, it's going to make them more hold on deeper to the government is spending $8 million of my money on transgender mice, right? The way that you get to that is you ask them questions about things, right? None of us want waste, and you may want to admit that. I don't want waste, right? But doesn't that seem a little far-fetched? Right? And you have to make it's all about coming back to them. And the things that we're releasing are about trying to get people to understand how to look at those that they're having conversations with and come at it from their perspective, not from their own perspective.
I've got a column coming out, I think, this week on Civic Media, and it's based on not this great research that you've done, but just on what you and I did the last year and a half. And I start out with the Yogi Berra quote. You can observe a lot just by looking around. And it's so true. And that's what you and I found. And I think you're so right, spot on this. Now you have the quantitative data to prove it, is you have to, not you, but folks, myself included, we have to remember to look at things through the eyes of the people that we're in front of, whether that's at a bar stool or at our kids' cross-country event or at a band concert or hiking, in a state park. How do other people see things? And then, as you said, look, I'm somebody who left the Republican Party in 2011. I didn't leave because I was shamed into it. I left because I was witness to something that was untrue to the things that I believe. And I said, I can't be a part of that.
Right. I mean, you recall we were in the bar, I think it's Stevens Point at one point, and I was having the conversation with the bartender who was trying to figure out how he wanted to vote. And if you remember when he was saying what he was thinking, I wasn't giving him facts or counter arguments to his decision that he was trying to make between Harris and Trump and his concerns about prices and what it meant for the bar and all of that. Remember, I was asking him questions that were about trying to get at what is the underlying concern that he's really articulating. Because remember, people are going to talk in sound bites and things that they've heard. But what you have to do is you have to understand what is the real fear, what is the real thing that, and then be asking them questions. Well, does that really make sense? Is that how you apply in your own life to, if they're concerned about immigration, but that they know somebody who's an immigrant who, works for them and they like them, you have to ask the questions about that. You need to make it personal. Because it's very easy for those to make it about others. You have to make it about specifics.
We're going to put all this courtesy of Trigby and the Lincoln Democracy Institute on our socials so you can connect to it and read it for yourself. Come on back. We'll play a little What's Worse with Trigby after this. It's the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. That was really great, Trigby. That was really, really good stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no,
Yeah. And I'll have a link for it in the podcast description.
Great.
So yeah.
Yeah, it works. I mean, it well, of course, my data isn't scientific, but so this column that I wrote where Zomer is going to help me put links to these shows, and I talk about going around to, I call out our stop at River Falls, and
Yeah.
it was it? I'm glad I could ask you this now. Was it the Rotarian Award that your friend and your buddy got up there? That
Citizen of the Year.
I put Rotarian. So I just said, look, this is every community has folks like this who everybody just relies on and expects them to be there, but oftentimes they're never recognized for their unheralded work.
100%.
And I go through these other stops, and then at the end of the article, I just say what I found out was that we're a lot more similar than we like to admit, maybe, or the politicians want us to know. And you see it at pancake fundraisers at American Legion halls and
100%.
church basements for people who lost their home to a fire or are fighting cancer. But the other thing, people don't want to be preached at. And it's kind of the golden rule, do unto others as you would have to do unto yourselves. So, treat people with respect. And when you disagree, don't make it personal.
No.
So.
No, and remember that it's about, just as with you want it. It's not about you when you're having those conversations. It's about them.
Right.
And you have to focus on that.
All right, here we go. Is this Gordon?
I think Jordan.
Jordan. All right. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 21 now past the hour, 1 o'clock on a Wednesday hump day. Zomer's on the board. Trigby Olson sticking around for a little hour two. We appreciate that. Trigby, thank you so much again for sharing with us this latest information, this quantitative data. Again, 4,000 folks, 1,000 of them in Wisconsin, following these folks for a long time and really putting it down there where the chickens could get at it. As how we talk to one another, or better put, how we listen to one another and learn from one another. 100%. And so all this information from the Lincoln Institute on Democracy will be on our website. Jordan, listening on WMDX, a brand new listener, a brand new texter. We appreciate that, Jordan. Jordan says, excellent point about needing to meet people where they are, not where we are. 7 Habits author Stephen Covey said it well, quote, first seek to understand, then to be understood, unquote. Great comment.
Oh, I'm stealing that for some of my presentations.
That's
really good stuff. Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan. That was great. We appreciate your listenership. And
I had forgotten Stephen Covey. I read that years ago, that book.
Oh, really?
That's a fantastic book. But yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, that
He's
great
right.
quote. First seek to understand, then to be understood. Really, really great stuff. All right, 22 minutes past. Anything else you wanted to add on that, Trigby?
No, that's all I got for now.
Here we go. 22 past the hour, 1 o'clock. Time once again to play What's Worse. Let's go.
This or that, this or that. Then, of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this or you can get with that.
Time once again to play What's Worse. No prize money involved, nothing to give away, but your chance to have your voice heard on 11 stations across the News Talk Sports Network all around Wisconsin, largest independently private-owned radio network in Wisconsin. No better place to get your message out than right here on the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, Trigby, here we go. This is good, timely indeed, as Mike Lucas likes to say, because we do have several slippery roads in Wisconsin right now as this storm system is working its way across the state and out. Be careful out there on the roads. So we have lots of slippery roads. Trigby and I both been in politics quite a while. Trigby has probably known more people like this than I have. But here's the question. What's worse, slippery roads or slippery people? slippery roads or slippery people? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. You can also text us on the Civic Media app. Download it at your Apple or Android device. Simply go to the search bar, type in Civic, CIVIC, Media. It'll pop up. Click on it. Takes less than a minute. It's free. It's what Gail King at CBS calls a deal. Make sure you have the Civic Media app because I have inside knowledge that coming soon, another text to win contest is on its way. And
It sure is.
And it's going to be spectacular.
It is.
We
know what the prizes are, but we can't tell you yet.
I cannot tell you, but I'm very, very excited about it. So make sure you download the Civic Media app. All right, what's worse, slippery roads or slippery people? 855-752-4842. Let's go to the North Woods. Ollie, listening up there in the North Woods. Ollie, slippery roads, slippery people, what's worse?
Well, hands down, it's got to be slippery people because the ice on the slippery roads will always melt, and the fallout from slippery people can last for years.
That is a great point. I absolutely love that. Have you known some slippery people up there in the North Woods?
Well, I can mention one or two right now.
Not by name,
one
but
starts with a T and one starts with an E.
that's probably we don't want to get sued, but but I appreciate that. All right. Thank you very much. I like that, Ollie. I'm guessing Trump and Elon, but maybe not.
Perhaps.
All right, very good. Let's see. Texter Dave in New Berlin. Dave says slippery roads, Todd. Slippery people are easier to see. All right. Well, there you go.
That can be true.
That can be very true. What's worse, slippery roads or slippery people? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. You can also text us on the Civic Media app. Trigby, any thoughts? Slippery roads or slippery people?
I just have four-wheel drive cars, Todd, even though I live where they don't usually have slippery roads. So slippery people.
Slippery.
I didn't like it when she was saying one begins with a T. That could be Trigby or Todd. That made me a little nervous at first.
No, I think she was talking about some folks out in D.C., not you amongst them.
Right, exactly. Let's hope.
Well, yeah, let's hope. The Chuckster in Racine checking in. Always appreciate your listenership, Chuckster. Talking Heads have a great song called Slippery People. So I'll go with the Slippery People. Our words. Very good. That's fantastic.
Talking Heads have more. That is a good song. Talking Heads have lots of good songs.
All right. Well, there you go. Zombers, any thoughts? Slippery roads, slippery people?
I think I got to agree with Ollie that, slippery road and Trigby, where if you have a vehicle that's equipped for slippery roads and you understand how to deal with them, that's a lot easier to deal with than slippery people.
And also, I agree, the ramifications, like Ollie said, the ramifications. I mean, you get through a slippery road, put some salt on it, it's over, it's done.
Now, people can die from that, but people can also die from the impact of slippery people.
Yes. I mean, and I hesitate to bring this up with 90 seconds left, but one of our favorite pinatas on this show, Trigby and I, our old buddy, former Governor Scott Walker. Now, there was a guy that was slippery because he'd go out and he talked about being the son of a Baptist preacher and all that. And then you get behind closed doors with he and Mike Hipsch, and they turned into just very slippery people. They wanted something different. And I've been in a few of those meetings, Trigby. Very slippery.
Yeah, that slippery is a good word for it. Mm-hmm.
because it's a slippery slope because they start one way and then you get them behind closed doors. Very, very different people.
I agree with that. Mm-hmm.
I would actually say
that would be a good example.
Like, for instance, Glenn Grothman. I wouldn't consider him slippery because he shows you the road pavement all the time, whether it's behind the closed door or not. Not so slippery. But it's the people that appear one way and then actually do stuff the different way behind closed doors. I consider that slippery.
I agree. That is the definition of slippery.
So I think
and having to deal with people who are slippery is a slippery slope, Todd.
It is. So there you go. There's the consensus of the day. Scott Walker is a slippery person, and that is worse than a slippery road. Trigby, always appreciate you coming on, my friend. Have a great week.
Thanks. It's good.
Don't slip
It was
anywhere.
Good being on. I will
All
try
right.
not to. All
We
right.
appreciate
See you guys.
See you later.
Thank you.
Trigby Olson,
Bye.
Senior Advisor of Lincoln Project. Thank you. Come on back. More fun on the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Conversation 92.7 WMDX. Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Yesterday's rain has turned into today's snow. Be careful out there because a wintry mix can easily turn messy. Here in Madison, we're only expecting about an inch of snow throughout the day, which should taper off into the afternoon and evening. And Madison police have arrested the woman they say attacked a bus driver, causing them to crash into a restaurant last week. It happened last Tuesday night. Police said the bus was near Stoughton Road at the time. According to police documents, a 26-year-old woman named Raven Johnson was upset that the Metro Transit bus wasn't going where she
That's so
wanted.
Raven.
That's when she attacked the driver, who lost control and crashed into the Asian House restaurant on Dempsey Road. 2 people were hurt, and one of them was taken to the hospital. She's tentatively charged with disorderly conduct, battery to a public transit operator, and recklessly endangering safety. And so far, we here in Wisconsin haven't seen the harshest effects of the bird flu. But after bans on dairy cows at livestock shows and spread among poultry flocks, now we're joining a multi-state effort to test for bird flu in dairy cows.
David
With
New
more,
Berlin says
here's
Night
Stuart J.
Ranger
Wiles.
are cool, Aaron.
Cows
I've
will
seen them
soon start to
perform
get
at
tested
least
for
10
bird
times.
flu. Wisconsin
Wow,
is
that
set
might
to
be more
begin
than Trigby's
testing
seen.
its dairy cows for bird flu as
It
part of
probably
the
is, I think.
USDA's national milk testing strategy. The state joins a nationwide surveillance effort that already includes 45 states.
Funding for this testing, as well as potential vaccination of poultry flocks, is still up in the air as the Trump administration continues to cut federal government services. And the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra has announced the lineup for a Madison Summer Classic. Every year they host concerts on the square, a free series so beloved as many as 50,000 people attend. This summer's events will include more Motown and even a Pink Floyd tribute. They're also adding 5 new food trucks. The first show is June 25th on the square. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
Got the cut.
On your entertainment beat,
All
I'm
right,
Pete
thanks.
Schwaba. Kieran Culkin is now an Oscar winner, having won the award for Best Supporting Actor last Sunday night. However, if Culkin had his way, someone else would have won. Just 2 weeks before the film written by Jesse Eisenberg was to start shooting, Culkin said he almost quit because the last season of Succession went on longer than anticipated, and he wanted to spend time with his family. Culkin also won the Golden Globe and Screen Actors Guild Award for his performance. Being a good dad only goes so far. Speaking of the Culkins, Kieran Culkin has come a long way from playing Fuller McAllister in Home Alone alongside his brother Macaulay. Macaulay attended after-parties with his wife Brenda and said he knew his younger brother was going to win because of where they sat him in proximity to the stage. The older Culkin was asked if he would see his brother later that night, and his response was, "I'm not sure. He's a busy guy." He's now Academy Award-winning actor Kieran Culkin. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
Snow this afternoon paired with vicious winds, prompting a wind advisory with gusts around 40 to 50 miles per hour. This will blow and drift and make it hard to see with the snow this afternoon, with total snow accumulations around 1 inch. Then it'll be sunny and near 40 tomorrow. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Currently, it's 31 degrees.
Wounded Warrior Project has been there for me since that first day in the hospital. They got me out of the house. They got me connected with other veterans, and they helped me face my PTSD. They support me and my family at every turn. And now I'm helping other warriors realize that they're not alone.
Through our hands-on programs, supportive community, and ongoing advocacy, we help post-9/11 veterans realize what's possible. Learn more at woundedwarriorproject.org/possible.
The John and Gordy Show.
We got a couple of people on the line here. Let's go to Mark, who's been holding on here for quite a while. Good morning, Mark. What do you got for us this morning?
I got to put my FCC filter on right here.
30
There's a
seconds.
President's Day sale on every day in the White House because Donald Trump has always been for sale.
What is in your mind? God help us lose our minds. These slippery people, help us understand what's the matter with him. He's alright. I see his face. I don't play no games. He's alright. Love from the bottom to the top. Turn like a wheel.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 34 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock on Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Zomer is dialing up some slippery people, some slippery roads.
As the Chuckster recommended.
Yeah.
Talking heads, slippery people.
Nicely done, Chuckster. Nicely done, Zomers. Appreciate it. Welcome back, everybody. Appreciate Trygve Olsen sticking around for an extra half an hour here. Really interesting stuff from that Lincoln Democracy Institute report. We will share that publicly so everybody can take a look at that. And again, I think the big takeaway for me on this, and it's great to have quantified data to support what Trygve and I just kind of found out in the wild. And it wasn't just me, by the way. It wasn't just me. We traveled around our friend Jane Matnair, Matnair on Air for a week, Richland Center and Amory and Eau Claire, Chippewa Valley area. We went with our friend Earl Ingram up to Baraboo in southwest Wisconsin at Devil's Lake. And then we traveled with Trygve on multiple occasions. Our friend and colleague Pat Kreitlow did a couple of shows with him at the Northern Wisconsin State Fair and the Pablo Center. And I think what Trygve has found in this quantified data of 1,000 people in Wisconsin, 4,000 people in these key states, is to really think about the people that we talk to every day, our friends, our neighbors, our loved ones, our coworkers. Pause and reflect a minute. As I say so often, to quote my former algebra teacher, Andy Spees, pause, reflect, and think, how does that person see the world? How do they view it? And then number two, that we simply can't shame someone into changing their beliefs or their thinking.
These things make sense. Like, you might hear this and go, well, duh. But then, but think back on your life and think back on how many times you're talking with somebody, whether you agree with them or not, and you're not really speaking the same language. Like you aren't actually connecting. Like it's easy to think, oh, well, of course you're going to think about their opinion. It's not as easy to put it into practice. So these kind of reminders are very important, I think.
And I think that was one of the big takeaways for me. It doesn't matter whether, when we were down, Kreitlow came with us down to South Milwaukee last year. We did a great show for the in the South Milwaukee High School down there, the Milwaukee public school system, which so often gets maligned. But when you actually go there and take some time to look at the facilities, talk to the faculty, the educators, talk to the students, the parents, they're doing some wonderful, wonderful things there in South Milwaukee. And then you go up to, we were in Superior. Well, we were up there when Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, former president, was there to announce this funding to replace the Blatnick Bridge, or Amory, or Hayward for the Birkenbeiner. The similarities are that all these folks, it doesn't matter which end of the state, urban, rural, we're all tremendously proud of our communities, our families, and our friends. Those are some similarities. But we also have to recognize that all those places, we grow up slightly differently. We might have slightly different religious values, and how we see the world is different. So when we're talking to each other, rather than saying, well, you don't know anything, stop for a second and think, what's the viewpoint? Where does that other person come from? And as Trygve pointed out, how can we ask questions to one another to get us to think and find that common ground? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Back to Los Angeles, California. L.A. Tom, back on the line. L.A., what do you got?
Yeah, I think people have to understand the power of media, because there's some people that actually will believe the propaganda, and they'll actually think that someone like Sean Hannity is their personal friend, or even a Rush Limbaugh was their personal friend. And for some reason, they hold more credence and they hold more um, believability than maybe even the family member or a friend that they respect. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because they spend so much more time with them, on a regular basis or what. But one thing I find about conservative media is that, one, they don't apologize when they do tell a lie or a mistake. Two, they tell lies quite often. And any type of alternative media actually seems to come up with, like, will actually say, yeah, I made a mistake on that. Or, hey, they'll actually admit that there was an error. And when you got one side of the media landscape that's constantly saying lies and doesn't correct them, then for some reason, someone hearing the alternative media saying, oh, yeah, I made a mistake on that, or, oh, yeah, Democrats are not, they screwed up in this way. It's all going one way in terms of conservatives just sticking to the point that, yeah, theirs is great, or that theirs is right. And for some reason, I think that's what maybe sways some people that are in the middle, or some really, really thoughtful, good people, to actually go along with the lies that the conservatives tell them, rather than looking at it like we're talking about, like a sensible person, and saying, okay, what are my fears? One-on-one, I agree with you in terms of the fears. My problem is that there are so many lies that happen through the media, reinforced by commercials that they'll see on TV.
Sure.
Which, of course, all goes back to money and politics.
But don't you think, Tom?
I can sit down with someone at a bar stool.
Well, that's the point.
And I can say to them, the problem's money and politics,
Right.
and they agree, 70%.
You nailed it right there. You nailed it. That's exactly where I was going. And that's why I try to talk on this show, and I try to encourage, I try to do it myself as much as I can to get away from our devices, all of us, whatever political spectrum we're at. And this is what Reed Galen's been in this program. And saying, join a Lions Club or a Rotarian Club or whatever. And this isn't, and I think some people hear that, they're like, oh, you're just telling us to ignore the problems. And no. It's quite the opposite. It's to your point, LA, which is if we can connect with our friends and neighbors in our own community and get to build a trust first, then we can start having these conversations and get down to some truths politically. But it's very difficult to do that when we're all hiding behind screens.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we think that the screen people that are on the screens are actually our best friends for some reason.
Right.
Or people, like I said, whether it's Rush or whether it's some of the Fox broadcasters or OAN or Newsmax. I'm not trying to just separate the difference. It's just there's a difference in media between Fox and MSNBC. And I'm trying to be honest about it. I'm trying not to look at it and go, okay, yeah, MSNBC is totally progressive. Well, no, it isn't. MSNBC is corporate.
But wouldn't you agree that there are corporations and media that have different agendas but are equally as guilty as ginning us up just for ratings, clicks, and likes?
100%. I mean, Les Moonves said years ago that Donald Trump may be the worst thing for America, but he's the best thing for ratings for CBS.
Bingo.
So,
bingo.
That's what it is. And somehow we have to be able to uncover that, just like we're talking about in this, election coming up with Crawford.
Right.
You know what? Sometimes Crawford's not going to get her message out because she may not have as much money, and she's a judge. It's not a political.
And let me say this, based on anecdotal information via following everybody or trying to follow the main candidates on social media. I will say Crawford appears to be going out and actually meeting people much better than Schimmel. She's actually having public meetings where anybody can come and talk to her, and I give her a lot of kudos for that.
I have seen more of that as well. Yeah.
Appreciate it, LA. Thanks so much. Have a great day out there on the West Coast. 855-752-4842. A little closer to home. Dale up in beautiful Wausau, listening on Bull Falls Radio, WXCO. Dale, thanks for listening. Let's see.
Yes. What I wanted to say is that I think the protests around the country are really a good thing. It's letting the general public know what's going on with this Trump administration. And I have a couple slogans here that I'm going to put on signs myself. And one is the muskrat rodent has to be stopped from rooting around in our government.
Okay.
And then I got one more. The orange anus criminal has to be impeached for real.
Okay.
And yeah, and you know, one thing that I've thought about all my life is that good news travels at a certain speed, but bad news travels the speed of light.
Yeah.
And we get the word out there what's going on in our government. You know, I think people need to know. And with these Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare, all these different programs being shut down so that we can give tax cuts to the billionaires. Here's an example of somebody making up $10 million a year. Okay.
Right.
They get a 10% tax cut, so that's $1 million. Somebody making $40,000 a year, their tax cut is $4,000. So that's 250 times as much as that person making $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can put in their pocket.
Yeah.
And if you blow it up to somebody making $100 million a year, a 10% tax cut, that's $10 million compared to the $4,000 that a person making $40,000 would get. So that's 2,500 times the tax reduction that one person gets over another. In other words, that person making $100 million would get a tax cut of $9,996,000 more tax cuts, more money in their pockets.
That ain't bad. That ain't bad, right, Dale? Appreciate the call. Dale up there in Wausau, 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. I agree. I agree, Dale, in that I think that peaceful protests, you know, going out and again, I think Travy's talked about this, Reed's talked about this, Reed Galen, other folks, that it does give us a unifying group. Again, it's coming together with people knowing that we're not alone. And again, as long as they're peaceful and nonviolent, either against people or against personal property, I think that's great. That's the First Amendment. That's speaking out for what we believe. Coming up on 46 now, past almost 47, past the hour of 1 o'clock. Wanted to pass along just a little bit of news here. Marquette University Law School poll is out. And we're going to take a little look at some of their findings here. And I'm going to say after we come back, because I had it on my phone, and then this is exactly why Todd doesn't like technology, because I have something up there and then I go to click on it and then it goes away. See, if you have paper doesn't go away. So we'll talk. I think but one of the Governor Evers, according to Marquette Law School polls, still tremendously popular right now. One of the most, although his numbers have slipped a little bit. It turns out people in the Supreme Court race who have been talking about Schimmel and Crawford, I don't see, they didn't do a head-to-head, and our great political editor Dan Schaefer reminded me last night that the Marquette Law School poll normally does not do head-to-heads with Supreme Court or justices in terms of the race. But they did do a have you heard of them or not? And it turns out that people haven't heard a lot about either one, which to me sounds bizarre given all the ads up so far. I guess it wasn't so much they hadn't heard of them, but they don't have an opinion.
Which, yeah, that's interesting because, I mean, I don't watch TV a lot. I watched the news last night, and I saw one Crawford ad and 6 Schimmel ads, and I feel like it's hard not to start forming an opinion when you see that much stuff about
Exactly.
him.
How can you not have an opinion on this stuff? But yet, that's what some people came back. So we'll come back, talk a little bit about that to close out the show, and take your phone calls as well. On a snowing, be careful out there. Again, roadways, some are slippery, particularly in northwest Wisconsin and central Wisconsin right now, as some of these places have seen several inches of snow. Some of it are slippery roads due to some freezing rain and ice. All that's going to move out of the state later on today. But until then, be careful if you're out there on Wisconsin roads. You're listening to the Todd Allbaugh Show, and you are listening around the world and around the state on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
Still putting off that deep clean? Let HS Pristine Clean take it off your to-do list. With over 20 years of meticulous cleaning experience, they make your home sparkle without the hassle. Call 920-932-0000 today. Why wait?
Transform your outdoor space with David J. Frank, Wisconsin's award-winning landscape management company for 65 years. You've seen their beautiful work at Hilldale Shopping Center. From expert lawn care to seasonal flower beds, precise trimming and sustainable solutions, David J. Frank makes your vision a reality. And right now is the best time to prune or remove trees. Request your free quote today at davidjfrank.com and get on their list for spring cleanups. David J. Frank, 65 years of excellence in every blade of grass.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
Can our NATO allies continue to rely on the United States under President Trump? What is your take, Professor Barrington?
The conversation had been going into Friday. Can Europe just get a seat at the table for these negotiations? The right question now is, can Europe build a new table? And I think that's where they are. February 28th, 2025 is going to be remembered as, I think, a pretty key date.
The Maggie Dawn Show. Weekdays from 2 till 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school
30
diploma,
seconds. Thank you.
have help. Find free adult education.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network, where it is 9 before the hour of 2 o'clock. At the top of the hour, ABC and CBS News, depending upon which of our great stations across Civic Media you were listening to. A weather update with our great meteorological team. Meteorological? I kind of flubbed that a little bit. Meteorology team. And our great sports reporter, Mike Clemens, in with little sports as well. Then the Maggie Dawn Show with the one, the only Maggie Dawn every afternoon from 2 until 4. Dominic Salvia, 4 till 6. Pete Schwaba in with Nightlight. After that, from 6 until 8. Great lineup here on Civic Media. New Marquette Law School poll being released about an hour ago in real time here, so bear with me a little bit. But this is very, very interesting. New poll that was conducted February 19th through the 26th. I sound like Richard Dawson from Family Feud. Interviewing 864 Wisconsinites, top 10 answers on the board. No, not really. Wouldn't that be great, though? They should, when Charles Franklin introduces this, they should play like Family Feud music. Let's play the feud. There you go. Very good. No, this is real. February 19th to the 26th, 864 people, Wisconsin registered voters. The poll has a margin of error at 4.6%, plus or minus. So that means that these results could be 4.6% one way or the other. So that kind of gives you the realm here. All right. It finds that the large percentage of registered Wisconsin voters remain unfamiliar with the candidates for Wisconsin Supreme Court and the state superintendent of public instruction with less than a month before the April elections. Among registered Wisconsin voters, 38% don't offer an opinion on state Supreme Court candidate Brad Schimmel, and 57% say they don't have an opinion on Schimmel's opponent, Susan Crawford. Now, I find that fascinating. That 57%, don't have an opinion one way or the other on Crawford. That's just astounding. 38% don't have an opinion on Schimmel. With all the ads, TV, digital, otherwise, maybe Zommers were just too much in the news bubble.
Maybe. Otherwise, what I'm thinking is maybe people are responding less to political ads. I don't know. That's possible. Or people are muting their TVs.
I think that's what it is. I think people just are like, I think in my layman's non-political science perspective, I think it shows how much people are tuning out of news altogether.
I think you might be right.
Just like I'm not paying attention to it. Also, the Marquette Law School poll in the election for state superintendent of public instruction, 61% lack an opinion of incumbent Jill Underly. 69% haven't heard enough about her opponent, Brittany Kinzer. So even less, which I guess that tracks a little bit. People don't pay that much attention on the whole to the DPI secretary race, but even more people don't know about the two candidates, or I shouldn't say don't know. They say they don't have an opinion. All right. According to this new Marquette Law School poll, awareness of the candidates is even greater among those who say they are certain to vote in the election and who say they are enthusiastic about voting. So this is another Charles Franklin and his great team. They say, are you somewhat certain, very certain, absolutely certain? And then same thing, are you somewhat enthusiastic, sort of enthusiastic, very enthusiastic? Todd terms, not the actual question, but you get the idea. So back to the Marquette Law School poll coming out about an hour ago. 41% of registered voters say they are certain to vote. Wow, that would be high. And are enthusiastic about voting on April 1st. By contrast, in the 2023 state Supreme Court race, 51% of registered voters actually turned out. I think it was one of, not the highest spring turnout in maybe forever, but quite some time. So according to this, as we stand right now, 10% less enthusiasm out there for this Supreme Court race. Marquette Law School poll results again, among those enthusiastic and certain to vote, 42% have a favorable opinion of Schimmel, 43% had an unfavorable opinion. In the same group, 33% have a favorable opinion of Crawford, 32% have an unfavorable opinion. So that's fascinating that 42% of people who say they are enthusiastic and certain to vote have a favorable opinion of Schimmel, and a 33% have a favorable opinion of Crawford, 43% have an unfavorable opinion of Schimmel, and 32% have an unfavorable opinion of Crawford.
So what it really means is that people are 50-50 on both of them, right, except more people don't know what to think about Crawford.
Pretty much. That you boiled it down. Yeah. And so and which stands to reason simply because Brad Schimmel has been on the ballot statewide and has served as the Attorney General.
So he's a little more well known.
So his name ID, it makes sense that, his name ID would be higher, but it's fascinating that they each, there's 1 point difference between whether or not they're favorable or unfavorable. What's interesting is that Schimmel has a higher unfavorable at 43%, but not as many people know Crawford. So, and this is why you want to know why you have all these negative ads out there. It's because of this. It's because both sides are trying to drive up the unfavorable, right, because they're not that well known yet. It shows that with less than a month now, April 1st is this election. It's very important. that people need to educate themselves because they still don't know who these people are. Very, very, very interesting results. We'll have more later on this Marquette Law School poll. Thanks to Trigby Olson, Pat Kreitlow, Aaron Zommers, and all of you for joining in. Stay tuned. Maggie Dawn is next. For all of us, I'm Todd Allbaugh. Whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum. See you tomorrow.
And they will hear you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.